which is redrafting last year's draft, the 2023 draft, about a little over halfway through their rookie year right now. So I wanted to do this just to get kind of a measuring stick. As we've talked about before, doing redrafts years out when everyone kind of already knows the order isn't quite as fun, because when you revisit this in a few years, it will be cool to see where players have moved up and down the board compared to where they were in their rookie seasons. So I don't think we've ever officially done one like this before during the rookie seasons. So it'll be cool to see where people fall on the board for this draft. We'll draft the lottery of the draft, so the top 14 picks over again. And if you would like, you could take the number one pick, but it's pretty fucking obvious who's going to be the number one pick in this redraft. So I could do it too.
I'll go first, and I'll make the obvious pick here. I'll select Marcus Sasser.
Let's go.
Just a long one now.
The star from Texas, Houston, his college.
Yeah. Yes, there we go. I mean, obviously everyone knows it's Wemby. We'll just get that out of the way. I divided this up into tiers. Wemby is obviously his own tier. He's really looking like the only star in this draft. Like, I don't know. That was the other thing that I thought was kind of weird, was I had a hard time projecting like surefire stars onto other guys besides him in this draft, which I thought was a little strange, because usually by now there's like one or two other guys who are kind of showing you a little bit of something. But Wemby's just far and away the absolute best at all of this stuff. He's really good at everything. He's really come on. He heard about us naming him the Wet instead of the Chembus, and now he is stormed back to make himself the Chembus and banish the other guy in Oklahoma City due to being wet. So really, really impressive stuff. Wemby's him. I mean, I think they've got to, once Trae Young gets to San Antonio, and once they have a real team around him, it's going to be really interesting. I don't know if I really have to go on more and say anything more than this.
And speaking of the Trae Young thing, I can't remember. I wish I remember who I heard this. It might have been the Pound the Rock guys were talking about it on the podcast, and they were talking about how they would like the Trae and Wemby fit a lot, and they would just like to see it, just like we've discussed. But it was really funny. One of them brought up a great point, which was like, is Trae's lob throwing in this duo a little bit overrated? Because you can literally just get anyone to throw. Wemby's catch radius is so large. It's like Rob Williams times 10. Like, like his arms are so long. DeAndre Jordan, like he just has the craziest, longest arms. He can catch anything, and you really just need to throw it towards. We saw it during All-Star weekend. Pods had a play where they set the screen, or Wemby set the screen, and then Pods literally just threw it over the top of the defense, just over the top of the defense, and it's just an unguardable play because he's literally sprinting like a wide receiver over his head, and he's able to just catch it and dunk it directly into the basket. So that would literally break basketball if they were able to get someone that has Trae's scoring gravity mixed with his passing ability, lob throwing, to get Wemby easy, just feed him buckets over and over again throughout the course of a game. And that's not even including his own self-creation, which he's an elite pull-up three-point shooter. It's on very small volume, but he's actually bad on catch and shoots. I saw this going around on Twitter the other day, which is that his catch and shoot numbers are not good. They're like in the high 20s, but his pull-up three-point shooting, he's shooting like 43% on pull-up threes, I think, as a rookie that is 7'5". Like, I don't think that this is really registered in our brains yet, what he's doing. Like,
yeah.
He started a little slow, and, part of that was the team context. Part of that was him just getting up to speed with kind of what the NBA does. And now you look at his stats and you're like, his stats are like year 2 Anthony Davis. Like, he is already one of the best rookies of all time. The only question is, where does he rank amongst rookies that have come into the league? You got to give guys like LeBron a little bit of a break because he was 18 when he came into the league. and Wemby is now 20. But where does he rank, and where will he end up as a player if he's able to stay healthy over the course? Because I think before the draft, I think I said top 10 player of all time was like what I expect from him. Mm-hmm. And so far, that's like kind of the trajectory.
That's the pace. Yeah, I was going to say
that's insane to say for a guy that's only played 50 games in the NBA.
Yeah, it's like outrageous expectations. I mean, health continues to be the big question mark, but we will see. I mean, it's I can't believe San Antonio really got away with it again, man. It's crazy.
This is insane. Big Linguini in the comments saying his per 100 possession stats: 34 points, 17 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 5 blocks per 100 possessions.
5 blocks per one. The 5 blocks is the craziest part of that. Like 17 insane. Rebounds is pretty nuts too, but
he's still on a minutes restriction. I know they loosened it up a little bit recently, but like until recently, he was pretty much on a minutes restriction. He's averaging 27 minutes a game right now. And this is why, part of the reason why we felt like it was, imperative that these teams that want to win a title, that want to contend, push in the chips now. Because in order to even get to the second round of the playoffs starting next year, you have to beat one of Jokic, one of Wemby, one of Luka. Like, it's just going to be what it was before in the West, but maybe even better than it was a few years ago when it was just impossible to get through the West with all those all-time players. Looking at the Western Conference All-Stars this past weekend, I was like, it's basically Karl-Anthony Towns and a bunch of first ballot Hall of Famers.
This is the real reason why people aren't watching the NBA, is because you can chart the fall of America as an empire in how many of the league's stars are American. And this is the tipping point. Like,
I know.
Is gonna be,
we're a year away from potentially the 5 or 6 best players in the NBA being Canadian, Slovenian, French, whatever. Like, it's wild.
We're pretty close right now. Like, is there a chance we could have like, it's possible we could have no first team All NBA guys for the first time in a while, American?
No, there will be one, because Embiid is missing.
Oh shit! Wait, Embiid?
You think Embiid is missing because of games? He won't be able to make first team All American, or for first team All American, first team All NBA. Also, American citizen. I do just want to say.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But what? So what? If you think about it, though, you've got Shea, Luka, you've got
Jokic,
Giannis. Like,
and then Tatum will probably be the 5th guy. I don't want to do the I don't want to do the Tatum conversation, but it comes down to like Donovan Mitchell, Tatum. One of the American guys will get into the first team. Is my point here.
Yeah,
it might not be Tatum, but it could be one of whoever. Like, if you look at the 5th, whoever, Kawhi, like all the guys that are on the fringe of the first team because Embiid's out. If Embiid was healthy, it would have certainly been 5 foreign players. Like, there would have been like Shea being Canadian American. Like, so that's kind of the thing here, is that there will be one, but it's a little bit by default this year. And then even if you assume Embiid isn't healthy enough to make it in the next few years, Wemby could just take that spot next year. Like, he could easily be first team.
That's what I was getting at. Is like, I think that once you have like if Embiid comes back okay, like, that's gonna be, Wemby could like push himself into that like conversation of just, you have these like 4 incredible foreign-born big men who are just like clearly the best, and then you just kind of rotate in whatever guard. Like, if SGA, I don't know if SGA's thing is going to be like a little bit Mickey Mouse or something like that, but like Luka's right there too. Sure. Like, I don't. It's gonna be interesting. America, it's over now, Mr. Jinping. We this is what we trained for, sir. We are the traitors to the country, myself included, are all watching the NBA.
Well, it was really funny because I dug up a tweet when Maxey made his first All-Star game this past weekend. I dug up a tweet from my pre-draft targets that I wanted the Sixers to target, and number 1 was Maxey, number 2 was Desmond Bane. Those were my 2, which everyone was like, wow, great call. Like, But then you look at the rest of the list, and it's Grant Riller was one of the guys that was on there. So I looked it up, and he's currently playing in China. So Xi is probably, if he's watching, if he's tuned in, probably have some ball don't stop monologues going on in his office, I would imagine.
He definitely watches, because I get some of the kickback from Chinese state media to talk about the death of America here on the podcast. So let's go.
If you want to sponsor the pod,
Yeah.
If the Chinese Basketball Association wants to sponsor the pod, let me know.
Yes.
I would love to do some plugs for our great game of basketball.
It's never been weaker. There's an opening right now. You can strike.
Before we move on to listen to the NBA podcast talk about the All-Star game. It is the empire is slowly crumbling and falling.
That we lost our Iron Man, the only man who could protect us too, Jacques Vaughn. So
I was gonna say we just like America fell under Obama, Adam Silver, the NBA is falling under him. His idol, Barack Obama. Yes. So let's move on to, all right, you know what? Last thing on Wemby before we move on.
Okay.
Where will he rank amongst the best rookies of all time? He's definitely the best since LeBron. I mean, Luka was really, really good a second half of his rookie year. Yeah. It took a little bit of time for him too. Duncan's a good one, but Duncan and Shaq, I almost feel like those guys like Tim Robinson, David Robinson, Duncan, Shaq, all those, especially David Robinson, who was like 24 as a rookie or 23 or whatever. It does feel a little bit like cheating to me. Only due to the fact that like they were so much older than the guys that come in the league now. Like LeBron was 18. Wemby's 19, 20. Those guys like were all, I think Shaq was 21, Duncan was 22.
Was it? Yeah, I was going to say rookie Kareem. I know we're going way back now. Was also,
but they were all 4-year guys. Yeah. Magic wasn't. Magic came out. Magic was one of the first guys that came out early. I think he came out after sophomore year. You could correct me if I'm wrong on that. He was 20 as a rookie and won Finals MVP as a rookie. So that's probably the answer.
That's probably pretty good.
Yeah. So, but still, worst case scenario, we're talking about one of the 5 or 6 best rookies of all time. Probably the best since, LeBron James, which on the trajectory at a minimum. Absolutely insane. So, anyway, the floor of Anthony Davis. Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Wemby is absolutely him. Very clear number one. Like you said, I think there are potential stars in this draft. He's the only guy that I see as a surefire superstar. No doubt in my mind that he's going to.
Are you going to give the hogs that were braying in the comments at me what they want?
The number 2 pick. So as you guys know, I did not have this guy as the number 2 guy on my board going into the draft. I had him at number 5, and I liked this guy in the draft, but I'm taking Brandon Miller. Sadly, KOC vindicated. Sadly, Dean on Draft vindicated. He's really, really good. He's another guy that started a little slow. He's also a little older. He's 21, which was part of the reason why I was like not quite as high on his production in college as some of these other guys that are like 19 and destroying college. I'm like, all right, he's a little bit older, but he has proven to be exactly what everyone wanted him to be, which, I think my thing pre-draft was I didn't quite believe in the playmaking and handle in terms of the self-creation as much as other people did. And I basically said, to me, he was like a variation of Mikal Bridges. That was like, people said he might be Paul George. I thought he was more like a Mikal Bridges type. A little bit of off the dribble juice, a really good shooter, defensive potential, probably never going to be the number 1 guy on a team, but he has blown my expectations away as a rookie. His size and his ability to kind of get wherever he wants in the mid-range and just knock down shots. He's been absolutely on fire in the last month or so. He's currently on a historic rate in terms of 3-pointers as a rookie. NBA University tweeted out 6'9" Brandon Miller is now shooting 38.6% from three on 6 threes a game. Him and Keegan Murray are the only two that will have made that amount of threes on that volume. He is, he's basically everything that you would look for in a rookie big wing with potential all-star upside. I think that eventually, as he gets more and more on the ball, he'll probably turn into at least a passable playmaker. I don't think he has like crazy playmaking upside, but in the right situation with the right context, maybe he can become a Jason Tatum level of playmaker for a wing, which is really all you need when you have the ability to kind of score and get his buckets wherever he wants. I'm not saying that I think that he's for sure going to be the second best player in this class, because it's far too early to say that, but just based on how he was in college, how he has progressed in his rookie year over the course of the year, and also just, all of his tools and everything, like, it's kind of similar to Keegan Murray from last year, but I think that Miller has even more upside. I never got the Jabari comps coming out of college because I always thought that he was a much better ball handler than Jabari. I also thought he was a little bit more athletic, much more athletic than Jabari. I think that, like I said, before it was like a Mikal Bridges type. Now I could see like maybe not quite the playmaker, but like a Chris Middleton, maybe even a little bit better type, which is like a lower end to mid-tier all-star and a really good player on a really good team in the future. So
I mean, so that's kind of where I think his absolute best case scenario is, something like a cross between Chris Middleton and Jaylen Brown. Almost like he's probably going to be a better ball handler than Jaylen Brown and playmaker, but he's probably got a little bit more pop than Chris Middleton, but he's also got like a little bit more flexibility than some of the other stuff. We talked about this before. My thing with Brandon Miller is I just don't know. I'm skeptical he gets to that upside because I feel like people always do this because we want big wings to like be good at this stuff. And, especially when guys have like good rookie years like this, we are like, okay, yeah, so that this is how he's going to play forever. And things like the 3-point shot, like come and go. There's different things that could happen for him going on. I'm less sold on it. He did own me a little bit, like, because I thought he was going to be.
He's owned you.
Yeah, because he is a lot better than I thought he was going to be. I'm seeing everyone asking in the comments why they thought nerds underrated him. There's a very big reason why a lot of people had questions about him that we won't get into right now, but let's there's a reason for that too.
Yeah, we thought he was a great culture fit for the team that drafted him.
Yeah, I was going to say, yes, it's definitely. So, yeah, I mean, I think Miller, this is probably where you want to go, which is why I didn't want to pick second because I didn't want to make this pick.
You didn't want to take the L. You had him 9 on your board.
I did have him 9 on my board. And I'm not, like, look, I don't think he's going to be the second best player in this draft. But like right now with rookies and kind of how they develop,
he's only been good at every level that he's played at.
Okay, we'll see. We will see.
Generally speaking, I'm just saying, I've said this time and time again, and I always say this. People always say it takes guards and bigs long to develop, which I think it's the absolute opposite. It's almost always wings. Wings take it to like year 4 or 5 to really pop. We've seen it time and time again. Chris Middleton is an example. Jaylen Brown is an example. Zach LaVine is an example. Basically, any scoring wing takes time. A lot of these guys, some of them are more ball of clay prospects that need to be molded into, a different type. Like he already had the shooting coming in, so he at least has that baseline level that's going to get him on the court, in a way that those guys might not have had early. And they might have been a little bit miscast, but the fact that he's really good on a team that doesn't really have much support for him. And if LaMelo isn't playing, I think that they really have terrible guard play. I know Micic might help a little bit, but like, I don't even know if he's an NBA player. And my guy, Trey Mann from the 2021 draft. But long story short here, wings tend to get better in their mid-20s. So the fact that he's 21 right now and he's doing this, that's a really good sign to me. And I think that the fact that I'm not saying that he is a surefire superstar. Like I said, I don't know. I don't think that anyone other than Wemby is in this draft, but he's shown me enough over college and this that I think that worst case scenario for him, he's in the all-star conversation at one point in his career, which is like a Mikal Bridges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess my thing is that a lot of wings that are really, really good were really, really good right away though. Like
Who?
you know what I'm saying?
George?
Jason Tatum.
Sure.
A lot of these guys who
he was a role player. Like, I mean, like he was a very good role player as a rookie.
Brandon Miller doesn't exactly have the keys in Charlotte though. It's not like
over the last month he has.
All right. I remain skeptical. I'll be insufferable when he comes crashing back, when he has his Scotty Barnes sophomore year next year, and just in time for me to take a couple victory laps, and then he'll rocket back to normal.
Game in his third year, like Scotty did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's we'll go from there. So all right, is it that's all I have to say about Brandon Miller.
Okay.
But
so just a little rundown here. Still 30 minutes per game, shooting 44% from the field, 38.6% from three, 83% from the line, averaging 16.6 points, 4 rebounds, 2.3 assists, about a steal and a block a game, a little bit under that. And then 1.7 turnovers, only 2.6 fouls as well. It's pretty good for a rookie. Usually rookie wings foul a ton and rookie bigs foul a ton. So that's good to see. So yeah, Brandon Miller, really good. This is probably, like I said, this is less full-on production, more flashes between this year and college. He was hyper productive in college. He's very productive for a rookie wing. When you think about the context, most rookie wings are fucking terrible. And then the fact that he's already in a bad situation. So I think as the team context improves, whether they keep LaMelo, whether they trade LaMelo, if he can get healthy, I think that Brandon Miller is a surefire bet to be like a top 50 player in the NBA at worst case scenario. So, okay. So third pick, you were up.
So I had Brandon Miller in a tier with 3 other guys, and I think Brandon Miller, you kind of have to pick second just based on his production because none of these other guys that I'm about to have in this tier have the same level of production. But I did really struggle because I like all 3 of these guys a lot. I think who I'm going to end up going with, though, I'm going to select Cason Wallace as my third pick.
You're going Cason this high?
This high.
I was the Cason guy pre-draft.
I had him third on my board.
I had him
behind Scoot.
I had him 4th on my board, 1 spot ahead of Brandon Miller. And I had him, I'll just spoil it here because you already took him. I had him 8th on my board for all of these guys. So what's your pitch? What's your pitch on Cason going third?
This
is the Anthony Bennett pick.
The 3 Thunder games I watched this year,
let's go.
I was very impressed by him. I think he's a dog. I think he's already got a lot of. I think he is being forced into a very small role on the Thunder, and I think he's capable of a lot more. When I watch him, I know that he doesn't play that much. I know that he's like a rotation level player for them, but I do really like him. I think he's got the shooting. He's probably not going to be like a primary playmaker or anything like that. Like he doesn't have a lot of like star upside, but he could be. I think he could be a really, really elite level, like Derek White, like plus level role player in the NBA.
Yeah.
And I think that's good enough for this level in the draft, to be honest. Like I really don't see a lot of guys having like super duper star upside that's like evident to me yet. I know everyone is very mad at me in the comments right now, but hey, I have to live my truth. Feel free to yell at me, but this is it. So
all right, so Cason, before the draft, we said Cason's upside. I said Cason's I think we said his floor was like D'Anthony Melton, basically. And in his rookie season, he has basically been a slightly better version of D'Anthony Melton, which is a good sign for a guy who's only 20. And he is playing a role on a winning team right now. The only things, and this is the thing that, as a creator, I'm interested to see what his upside could potentially be, because, like you said, he's not super explosive. He's not a high-level playmaker. But the shooting being as good as it is this early in his career makes me think that he can slowly develop those other parts of his game. And, like, I wouldn't be shocked for a team that already starts Lou Dort, who's kind of in a similar mold of player. I wouldn't be shocked if Kaysen at some point is starting for OKC, unless they make an all-in star trade or absolute move up in the draft and get someone big. I think he fits well on a lot of good teams because of the shooting and the defense, for sure. I'm just based on his first 40 games, 50 games in the NBA. I'm a little bit like, I thought that he could potentially have maybe a Drew Holiday type upside. I'm not sure if I could fully get there, like, because Drew made multiple All-Star games, was a real became
really good rookie. Drew was really good, really young.
He was really good, really young, and he was super young when he came into the league. I think we drafted him when he was still 18. Because I remember we just did the whole thing about how Buddy Hield and Drew Holiday are like very close in age, which breaks my brain.
It's so insane. Yeah.
Kaysen's a little bit older. I think his game's going to slowly come along. I do think that he's just going to be a really good role player. If he could become Derek White or whatever, that's great. I think that I'm a little bit lower. Just seeing him versus NBA athletes is the real reason why I'm a little bit lower than where I was pre-draft, but I still think he's going to have a really good career. Like, I said it before the draft. I said the reason why I had him 4th on my board, I think, I was like, I know he's going to have a 10 to 15 year NBA career, bottom line. Like, I just know it's a safe pick, but it's a pick that if you have the 10th pick in the draft, the 12th pick in the draft, whatever, where the range that he went, I would feel fantastic. I would have even drafted him higher than some of the more upside swing guys that we will talk about at some point. But yeah, I still love Kaysen. I think that he's going to have a great career and be on really good teams for the next decade.
And I guess that's just the thing. That's like the difference in like valuation, because I think I know who everyone wanted me to take 3rd. I'm sure you're going to take them 4th, and I don't know. I like there to be a little bit of I want to know that a guy can play for a good team, and I know for a fact that Kaysen
can I see it? Also, this is the Bill test of 2013 draft. I watched the NBA Finals, and I want to know guys that can stay on the court in the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
I think
Kaysen Wallace can play for good teams and be competitive.
I was going to say, I think if the Thunder make a run, he'll be able to stay on the court in the playoffs, and might even be able to scale up in his minutes, because they have a starter who won't be able to, I would imagine.
Right.
Okay. So with the 4th pick in the 2023 mock draft. So to summarize, Wemby, Brandon Miller, Kaysen Wallace. 4, I'm going to take Villanova's own Cam Whitmore. I think Cam's going to be a star for sure. Like, I'm not saying superstar, because I just don't know anyone who has that little passing and playmaking feel that becomes a superstar. Like, it's very, very rare that someone between college and his rookie year really does not pass all that much. And when he does pass, it's not like he's making like advantage. He does have a little bit more passing ability than people give him credit for when he actually does pass. But the thing is, at every level, Whitmore has kind of just been the most like athletic, dominant dude, so he hasn't had to pass, and it's something that he's slowly working into his game, and it still continues at the NBA. Like, he looks like on any given night the most athletic player on the court, and I just can't really get that out of my mind for a guy that's 19 years old. That I had him 8 or 9 on my board. I can't remember exactly where, but I had him 8 or 9 on my board, and my whole thing was this one thing I focused in on, which was how can he reach that star level without the passing? And the answer is be one of the most athletic players on the court at any given time and have insane shooting touch, which he has shown even more in the NBA this year. He's been in limited opportunities, has been really, really good anytime he gets onto the court. He's built like a fucking truck, dude. Like I don't really like I said, like I think that before the draft, Dredd called him ball do stop Jaylen Brown.
Ball do stop.
Which
Jaylen.
I thought was funny. Which considering where Jaylen was when he was 19, comparing him to Cam Whitmore, is honestly like they're leagues apart. Like Cam is way better than Jaylen was when he was 19. And Jaylen
was one of the most raw.
Yeah.
Go back and look at Jaylen's advanced stats coming out. Like he was like I was apoplectic about the pick because I was a calculator back then, and I was like, we drafted like the worst player that's ever happened. But he really developed as a player, and that's part of the reason I'm lower on Cam. Because I watched Jaylen Brown develop, I saw how radically Jaylen Brown had to develop to become this level of player that he is.
Sure.
And what he is one of the more overpaid players in the NBA. Still a very good player, still very impactful. But I guess what is Cam Whitmore's role on a really good team? Is my question.
Jaylen Brown, like Jaylen Brown, like a big. Okay,
everyone wants to trade Jaylen Brown after that, though.
But if Jaylen Brown was 6'8" and 240 pounds, Jaylen is a very good. Jaylen's made multiple All-Star teams. Like he's a really good player. Has been one of the better players, and even with all of his faults, has had some really big moments in the playoffs. Whitmore's better at his age. Has better tools and better. Just kind of like he popped as a rookie in a way that, like, if you watch his college stuff to where he is now, it almost feels like a crime the way that he was used at Villanova. Like he is so much better now than he was a year ago there. And I know that he didn't get along with his coach or whatever. And his coach kind of apparently the rumor was that like his coach like kind of talked shit to teams, which is part of the reason why he fell in the draft. They said it was a knee injury thing, but the rumor is that like Kyle Neptune basically didn't co-sign him, which is just like classic boomer shit. Like take the player with like I said, like he should have, worst case scenario, he should have been going like with like the 13th or 14th pick in this draft. There's no way he should have ever fell as far.
We were losing our minds on draft day. We were all like, how is he still falling? But
so question,
and I think that's
good. Per 36 stats are so far. I know, like I said, limited opportunities because he's coming off the bench at a Houston team that has a lot of on-ball guys, and honestly, I think he's better than Jalen Green right now.
Yeah, and he definitely is. Sorry, that is not that's not exactly a ringing.
No, it isn't. It isn't. But it's also like, if he were getting the same opportunities as Jalen Green, I think the conversation would be different. Is my thing. Yeah. So
it's 25. I'm gonna guess points per game, and
25 points per 36, 7.7 rebounds per 36, only 1 assist, which once again you want to see go up. 1.6 turnover, so negative assist turnover ratio, not great. 2.9 fouls, so he doesn't over foul. He is currently shooting 47.8% from the field, 40% from three on 9 threes per 36. And then the other thing that is a little bit persistent of college for him, which is why I wasn't super confident in the shot, is that even though his catch and shoot numbers in college were good, and his shot looked good on film too. Like it wasn't like it wasn't a broken shot in a way that they didn't have to rebuild his shot at all. But he shoots 67% from the line. You want to see that go up. But the flaws in his game, I think, are fixable and will come with time. And I think he has all the ability and upside in the world if he can just figure out the passing thing, because he's just like he's a physical freak, dude. Like he's a beast.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's like, I think what I want to see, I think one of the things he has already answered for me that I think is genuinely very encouraging is that the 3-point shooting being what it is really, really encouraging for him.
Yeah.
I want to see, I'd like to see him kind of turn himself, especially where how toolsy and how big he is. I'd like to see him turn himself into like a really premier defender, like or at least one of the better wing defenders in the NBA and a guy who can kind of scale one or two ways. I think that's ultimately going to determine how I feel about him and how useful he's going to be on a winning team. Because right now, my worry for him is that he will end up kind of a good stats, bad team guy. If he's like kind of given the keys too early and is kind of just hooping out there, and isn't kind of responsible for some of this other stuff. Because I really don't think he's the passing. Just he's not going to be ever going to be like a best, like a star player. He's not ever going to be like, he's going to be a guy like Jaylen Brown, where it's like he's a star player, but is he a star player? Like a second best player on a really good team.
A play finishing role would be good for him. Like if you could pair him with, the hope is that Şengün's playmaking and passing gets even better, and then he can just work off of that and in time become a decent enough passer that he can at least, not be a guy that you run a ton of offense through, but like is just like late shot clock situations, catch and shoot, getting downhill, attacking, and that could be make you valuable to good teams too. Like, I know they're completely different players because just the size and the physical tools are completely different, but like it's part of the reason why Tyrese Maxey was so good on the Sixers early in his career. Like his ability to function off of the ball, away from the play, that still makes him like a threat to get downhill and also catch and shoot and all that shit. And occasionally you just throw him the rock and let him cook. Like that's really
right.
like the upside for a guy like Cam is like you said, like he's a better shooter than Jaylen right now. Like the sample's so small that I don't want to overlook into it, but like if he can, and Jaylen's an insane tough shot maker, which is why his shooting doesn't really fall off in the playoffs and sometimes even gets better.
Well, also like outside of Kawhi, like Jaylen is the most outrageous developmental outlier like in the history of the NBA.
Sure. But he also was not good as a rookie, and Cam is. So that's where I differ from your opinion on this, because it's like if Cam came in and was terrible, I would be like, yeah, it's going to be a long haul. Like if he was Zach LaVine when Zach LaVine was a rookie, I would be like, ooh, this is going to be tough. But the fact that he's already shown that like the Rockets aren't great, but like he can hang and he can play on a team that like wants to make the playoffs, it's an encouraging sign for me. And the production kind of speaks for itself. And like watch one game of this guy and you're like, I can see it. Like that's just kind of how I feel about Cam the more that I watch him. But yeah, so you're up with the 5th pick.
I will take my strong rebounding son in Detroit. Ausar Thompson, come on down.
Wow, I'm surprised. Okay.
Well,
I have him a little bit lower, but I have him on the board. So are you worried about the shooting? Because I'm to the point where I'm like, what are these guys like? What happens with the Twins if they can't shoot? Like they're shooting 17% from 3 and like 62% from the line.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Like I mean, Ausar started stronger, but it's like really gotten bad. Like he's like really fallen off a cliff. So that's like part of it. It's almost like we're kind of having the opposite conversation that I kind of thought. Like I kind of thought like Cam and Ausar would be swapped at this point in time in terms of like how they were talking about them. So I am like a little bit owned there. I mean, a lot of the arguments we just made for Cam can be made for Ausar, though, just from a developmental standpoint. And the fact that Ausar was playing off of his brother the whole time, I was higher on Ausar to begin with, like coming out for some of those reasons, because I thought he could scale better into a role when he didn't have the ball as much, because he was used to kind of secondary playmaking, sort of
role player shit,
and he's still one of the most dominant small forwards in the NBA, rebounding the basketball, which is again a really good sign. I think that's a really underrated skill from threes, and I think that ultimately determines how like impactful you can be as a wing player. and being out there, and he's got the athleticism and the tools, I think, to be a really good defender. But again, we're talking about the 3-point shooting, and yeah, I mean that's the big question mark
That's
here
the swing
is
piece for both of them. Is
yeah.
like, and to what wait, in what capacity? Because like Asar, I think both of them have really good role player skills, and Amen has even been able to get himself onto the court with similar skills. And you would think the idea behind Amen's upside was like, can he be a taller Russell Westbrook essentially? Like that would be, and they are close to that level of athlete. I don't think anyone will ever have Russell Westbrook's level of athleticism and motor like ever.
Right.
Like he's maybe the best athlete we've ever seen come through the draft in the last 20 years. But the thing with both of them to me is like, if they're just complete non-shooters, how does that work in the modern NBA? Because if you look at guys that shoot there are no starters that shoot in the teens. So maybe he could get to the point where he's in the high 20s, low 30s. If you can become that level of shooter to me, that changes the calculus. I need to see him just like, I love everything else. Like he athletically, he's jumps out the gym. He's an insane, like you said, he's good at every role player thing already. Like you want perimeter defense, offensive rebounding, connective passing, like a little bit of just like off the dribble passing. Everything is good. But I'm just concerned about if they can't shoot at all, how are they going to stay on the court in the playoffs? And in the regular season, even, can they become I know this sounds insane, can they become a Russell Westbrook, Giannis level of shooter to be able to just like stay on the court? And maybe they're just higher level role players, but they need to be able to shoot. And that's the only thing that I'm concerned about. Everything else with their game is pretty good. And like the flashes that you see with these dudes is like insane. Like watch a game of Asar, and there might be like a 2 or 3 minute period where he's just taking over doing like crazy little shit.
I will say that like part of the shooting thing, I would like to see him on not the one of the worst teams in the modern NBA era before I like totally like write him off just in terms of like the spacing. I will say it is a little bit alarming that with the new like Mike Muscala, like it still seems to be the same problem. So like, you know, who knows? I don't. This is almost like more of a gamble. This is me kind of. People are pointing out that you know, I don't really have a lot of consistency in how I'm evaluating these guys.
I like them you're going full draft Twitter on us. I like them more pre-draft though.
Right. I like them more pre-draft, and I like the vibes better. Like just the vibes are better. You know, this is like I'm curating like a very different vibes thing. I don't. Again, this is another thing.
Cam Whitmore know the hometown of every all-star off the top of his head? Because I guarantee you the Thompson twins would.
Yes, exactly. That is it. Genuinely, like again, this is so Bill Simmons brained of me, but when I saw that clip of them, like just knowing all the NBA stuff, I was like, winners.
You indeed.
Winners.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Winners. Let's go. These guys rock. I mean, this one is like, I'll fully admit, like, if I were being the same level of being to Asar Thompson that I just was to Brandon Miller, and how like cryptic it's like got close. Those guys they're completely different statistical players. We're talking about the difference for Asar being like, can this guy be a functional role player on a good team versus like, well, you know, Cam can't be a star, so I'm out.
If Asar can shoot, if Asar can shoot corner threes, he is going to be an elite role player. Can he shoot at all is the only question for me. Because if he can't shoot at all, then it's going to be tough for me to see him being anything more than like a fringe starter type, like bench player.
Yeah.
And if he can shoot threes, if he can figure that part of his game out, this was always the question with him. Like, he's going to be a guy who can just stay on the court in any big game and impact the game without scoring.
Again, this is probably because I also just watch way less basketball than you. Like I probably only watch like non-Celtics games. Like I've only seen Asar in like 3 non-Celtics games all year.
Well, we were all locked into the winning streak or the losing streak.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Right.
which is
But
a great time to watch
right.
someone play when they're in the middle of a historical losing streak.
I have a full-time job. I can't watch like all that. I barely watch as many Celtics games as I do. I've watched like recaps of Celtics games at this point, but the Asar just jumps off the screen every time I watch Detroit. Like he seems outside when Duren doesn't play, he seems like their best player.
They have a really
me.
athletic core outside of Cade. It's like Duren, Ivy, and Asar are like crazy athletic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I test wise, I look at Asar, I see him like missing the shots. I get it, but I need to I can't help but pick Asar here because I just the rebounding numbers, because the fact that he's like one of the best like rebounding small forward in the NBA completely backs up what I see. Because I was like, holy shit, how is he like getting to that?
He's crazy. Yeah,
like
Amen's really good at it too. Like that's the thing, is that like they're that level of athlete. If they can ever figure out that one glaring weakness in their game, they're going to be guys for sure.
Right.
But all right, so you took Asar 5. Let me write that down.
Yep.
And I will be taking.
Don't do it.
The Podziemski.
No! Shit! No! I thought about it. I was thinking about it. I was like,
we've now left my tier of guys I think are either going to be elite role players or stars. Like there are some other guys that have more star upside, I think.
So was that tier for you just Miller and Whitmore?
Okay, so I had Wemby was my first one. Then I had Brandon Miller and Whitmore. And now we're in the, like, Kasem would be in this tier. You already took him. Asar would be in this tier. Mm-hmm. Now we're in the, I think, really good long career, possible in the right situation, elite level role player upside, already good as a rookie. And then I have some more question mark guys that might be in this tier, might be a tier below, that are like, if this works out in their game, surefire star or surefire high level role player. Podziemski, I just have less questions about him. I know the Warriors aren't good, but it's not his fault. Like whenever him, Steph, and Draymond are all healthy and playing together, the team looks very good and competent. He fits perfectly with what they want to do. I mean, we always knew that this was going to be a perfect fit. It's part of the reason why you were pissed on draft night that he got drafted there. Because this is exactly what he needed. A system where he can function on the ball, off the ball, read and react, show off everything that made him awesome in college, but not have the thing that we always worried about with him was like, is he going to be athletic enough to create his own separation, get his own shot? And in the Warrior system, a lot of those things kind of go by the wayside.
You don't have to worry about it.
You don't have to worry about it. System, if you're a cog in the system, it will create its own opportunities for you. We've seen it with Jordan Poole. We're seeing even now with Jonathan Kuminga how great he can be despite some major flaws in his game. So Podziemski is someone who, this is crazy, but like he didn't really play as a freshman in college. So this is kind of his second year of like high level basketball. And you went from star in college at, yes, a smaller school, but now you're shifting into fifth starter level role player on an improving team. At least I think that they're probably going to make the play-in, maybe even make the playoffs with him as a starter, with Clay being benched here. And like the fact that you've been able to do that, you got the Warriors to bench Klay Thompson. And I don't think it's only because Clay was playing like shit. Like I think genuinely Podziemski just makes more sense for what they need right now. They need someone that has a little bit more off the dribble juice. They need someone that can make a little bit better passes. They need someone that is just going to be that complementary scorer. And him and Kuminga give them at least a facsimile of an extra star that they've been missing. And the thing with him is like, I'll still always have questions about the defense just because of his size and his tools. But like, we're now getting to the point where like, he's a good NBA player. And like, as a rookie, that is a huge thing for someone to come into a team that has all these Hall of Famers on it and really stand out and get the respect from all the older guys. And like, yeah, in the playoffs, maybe those defensive issues will pop up, but he's like already going to be, an important part of their rotation. And I think his offense is invaluable, even if I do have some concerns about the defense in the playoffs. So yeah, he's better than I expected. I had him at 9th on my board, maybe 10th. I can't remember, but
he's so good. He's so good. He turned the fans against Klay Thompson, like a fan favorite, surefire all NBA, probably a Hall of Famer. Klay, when it's all
so he's
said and
definitely a
done.
Hall of Famer. Yeah.
Yeah, and like they put Podziemski just made everyone like tweet death threats at Klay. It's awesome. Like, they really turned the Warriors fans around. Brandon Podcast vindicated. We've once again said you just anyone who's got a cool name, a cool nickname, you can just go off the vibes of that, and we were correct once again. So
yeah. Him and Whitmore have rose the most up my board of the guys that we've taken so far. Like those two being as good as they are as rookies, I think I had them at 9 and 10. I can check right now, but I'm fairly certain I had them at 9 and 10 on my board. And now we're taking them I took them at 4 and 6 in the redraft already. So
you know who had Brandon Podcast number 6 on his board before the draft?
I believe you did.
Man, yeah,
I believe you did.
Chuck thought I needed to get my carbon monoxide tester battery swapped out when I told him that. But
go.
We win. We ride.
Let's go.
I'm just telling you, everyone, you got to go off vibes. You got to go off vibes. I'm telling you. But no, I mean, I think what everything you just said is spot on. I think the big point I wanted to make is would Brandon Podcast be this high on like a different team, like on the Milwaukee Bucks? No, he would not.
I don't think so. But I also think that he could be like a good bench player for a lot of teams.
No, he could. He just like right now he looks like a legit starter, like an honest to goodness starter. And I do think that a little bit of that is covered up by the lathe of heaven that is playing with Steph Curry and just having
sometimes for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But they needed it so bad. Like they needed this to have with losing Poole's scoring juice, even if Poole's a bozo and has completely fell off a cliff. Like that was important for this team.
That's another evidence about what I'm talking about. The Brandon Podcast is that Jordan Poole left and immediately became the worst player in the NBA. But I do, look, I think it's really impressive. I think it speaks to he's good and it speaks well to his intangibles that he was able to step into such an intimidating situation and things were so bad and still be like, yeah, I'm going to take Klay fucking Thompson's shooting guard spot on the Golden State Warriors. Like I do think that stuff like kind of matters,
if you read the Athletic article today, he's got that dog in him. Like that it sounded like urban legend shit. Like he might honestly with Mac McClung not taking over the dunk contest again this year like he did last year, Podcast might be the new white boy who's goated with the sauce.
Let's go. We need that. We need that. I'm just saying this is the Polish representation that we needed so badly in the NBA. Let's go.
A Polish man.
Yeah, we've had we've had a decent amount of Baltic and Slavic representation. Now we've got now we're really getting some Slavs in there. So
exactly
my people as a quarter Polish person myself. So
all right. So I went Podcast 6. I knew you wanted to take Podcast, so I had to take them before you could.
I will take the last player in my little tier here.
Okay.
I will take one Anthony Black of the Orlando Magic.
All right. Anthony Black. Oh
Anthony
my God. I forgot about Lively, dude.
Oh, I remembered Lively. I just wouldn't have picked him yet.
I literally forgot about him.
Yeah. He's in my next tier.
I passed over him on my board.
Oh no!
I have him I had him 4th on my board.
Really?
Yes. I can't. I literally.
Derek Lively Jr.
Yes. You know what?
Okay.
You know what? I'll take him. You can take Potts.
Okay.
Just because this is offensive to Derek Lively.
I am A-okay with that. You
Okay.
can
You take
absolutely
Pods.
go ahead. Yeah.
All right. And then I wasn't going to take Anthony Black next anyway, so you can get him
Okay.
the next time
Fair
around
enough.
if you want.
Okay, sure thing. So
I
talk to me about Derek Lively, spelled Dereck, which is something I didn't know until today somehow.
yes, Derek
Mhm.
Lively. Another guy, Pods and him probably drafted to the two most perfect situations
Yes.
of any player in this draft.
Yep.
Lively was not someone I was high on coming into the draft. I didn't really understand why they took him as high as they did. I thought that he was going to take real time to develop. I think on draft night I said I would have taken Cason Wallace instead because I thought Cason was just much more plug and play. But the Mavs don't really need guards. They need bigs and wings. And Derek Lively, when he's been able to stay healthy, crazy athlete, really good rim protector, great defender in space for a guy his size, incredible lob finisher, play finisher. He is just a hand in glove fit with Luka and what they want to do. So I think that he was just pretty much completely misused at Duke. And one of the things that he hasn't really been able to show as much in the NBA, and he didn't really get to show off at Duke either, is like for a guy his age and his ability level, like his passing is actually pretty good for a big. And if he can add that level and like show off his playmaking and passing a little bit more and just general decision making, I think he's going to be a Clint Capella plus type, which is like Clint Capella was a third, fourth best player on one of the best teams of the last decade. Obviously, they didn't win a title, but like they got to the conference finals. He's been to multiple conference finals. Really perfect fit with the Luka Harden archetype of creator. And like, wouldn't shock me if things fall into place for him right year, whatever. He's making all defense teams, all-star team, potentially maybe on like a random year. I don't think he'll ever be able to show off the shooting because he's just not needed in his role with the Mavericks. But if he could ever get to the point where like he actually like he has some touch, like I think that he might be able to be like a passable corner 3-point shooter for a big. But long story short, the physical tools, the production at his age, the perfect fit with Dallas, he's great. Derek Lively's very good. It's unfortunate that he hasn't been able to play as much because he's been injured recently, but he's back, and I think that he's exactly what Dallas needed. And I was of everyone we've discussed, he was the one I was the most wrong about of anyone from this draft. Like he has been way better than I expected already, and will continue to hopefully grow into a potential star level impact guy from as a role player. So yeah, Derek Lively. I'm sorry, I should have taken you higher. I had you 4. Like I would have taken Whitmore 3, and I had Lively 4.
I think I had Lively like more. Yeah, I had Lively like around 10. No, not 10. I guess it was 9 because you took.
I just forgot. I can't believe I literally have it written down right here. I just passed over him. So yeah,
didn't want him in that. My thing. I think Derek Lively's an excellent center. My problem is that Derek Lively's a center. And like you've got to be like really special to be like a really important like center in the NBA. Yeah,
But it showed how when healthy, him and Gafford have just like transformed how good Dallas can be.
It's true. I mean, the other thing though is that them getting Gafford, which was cost them like a first round pick, was that easy to transform into your team. You know what I'm saying? Like there is always big help. You know what I'm saying? Like something like this kind of happened with Daniel Tice in the Clippers. That's kind of when the Clippers season turned around, was when they got Tice, and just got like a little bit of help at the big position. I think that a good big is very important. It's also because you only really need 1 or 2 of those guys in a rotation for a team. There's always a lot of those guys.
In the regular season, I agree.
Yes.
In the playoffs, I think it's harder to stay on the court as big. And I think that I know that Lively's going to be able to.
Okay. That was going to be my next question. Okay. Yeah. You think he's going to be able to? You think he's going to be all right in the playoffs?
I think he could. I mean, I think he could be like I think I mean, look, I know it's not a great example because Jared Allen
Yeah.
got punked last year, but like he
Yeah.
could be like a Jared Allen level of big. And like that's a really good, valuable player to have. And like he can move a lot better in space because of his athleticism and his tools
Yeah.
than the majority of bigs. Like I don't think that he's he's still got a long way to go because he's still like 19 or 20. Like
Yeah,
he's
he's
super
really
young.
Yeah.
But he's nimble for a dude his size, and I think that he'll be fine. And honestly, I don't even know if the thing about him is that he might just be so defensively versatile that you can run multiple systems with him, which is why a guy like Bam is better in the playoffs because he can switch and he can run drop now. So and he can blitz. He can kind of do anything. Like he might get to that. I don't think he's going to be quite as good on defense as Bam, but like he might get to that level of just like really good, versatile, all around big defender. And it's so easy to be a big with Luka.
The passing really changes his ceiling for me too. Because honestly, I didn't know he had that. Like
he doesn't really get to show it that often is the thing.
Yeah.
Like they don't really like, but like for a big in his role, he is good for a vertical spacing big rim protector archetype as a passer.
I think I guess that's my point is if you can pass it all while being a vertical, like Rob Williams was always a really good passer, and I always railed about how important the passing was because people can't just wall you off.
Yeah.
Because most vertical spacing bigs, you just wall them off from the paint and they can't do anything. But if you wall off a guy who can pass a little, they'll find the open guy. So it makes him a more impact level. I'm a little bit less sold on him being able to keep up in the playoffs, and that's not even really a Derek Lively thing. I think that's we are the arms race acceleration of what it takes to defend guys in the playoffs is getting so insane now.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah, like that. I just think it's going to be, kind of difficult. I like Derek Lively a lot, though. I think he's really good. There's a couple other guys like Anthony Black I would take first, just because I think those guys have like a little bit more impact upside. So,
okay, so Anthony Black. So right now we have Wemby 1, Brandon Miller 2, Cason Wallace 3, Cam Whitmore 4, Asar Thompson 5, Derek Lively 6. I changed my pick. You get Pods at 7, and then I'll go with the 8th pick. This is where I'm conflicted. I'm finally getting to the part of the board where I'm actually conflicted on who to take, because I think there are some upside guys, and I think that there are some. I think there are some guys that are already good players that I feel like are going to have really good careers. All right, you're taking Anthony Black next. All right, so this is a little boring because he's just like already good, but I'll take Jaime Jaquez.
That was the next guy up on my board after Anthony Black.
I could go in a different direction if you. Okay. Well, the reason why I'm taking Jaime here is that like Jaime's good. Yeah. He's older. So I kept saying pump the brakes. He's 23. Like he's Tyrese Maxey's age. Like he should be good if he is going to be an NBA player. But for where they got him in the draft, how he fits with what Miami wants to do, just a big, big wing with size who can dribble, pass, and kind of shoot. Like my problem with Jaquez on that Heat team this year is that he doesn't fit with the two best players. Like Jimmy Butler and Bam, they'll probably need to switch up their minutes as much as possible and split up Jimmy and Jaime as much as they can. But for a rookie, he's been very good. He likes to operate in the same spaces as Jimmy, but he's not as good as Jimmy. And teams have kind of caught on to the shooting aspect of his game. He can't really shoot. Like teams have kind of just started leaving him wide open, and it's messed with his game ever since he's come back from injury. But catch him on the right night, and he looks like he could be a guy that can make an all-star game at some point in his career. Like he is really skilled. I loved him in the draft. Like I think everyone we've taken so far, I had clearly in the top 20 of my draft. I think he was towards the end of that.
We both reacted like we got shot when the Heat drafted Hawkins.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Great fit for what they want to do. Just be, he'll probably be, look, he's already a passable defender. just big wings with size that can create their own shot, shoot in the mid range, make extra passes, and stay on the floor defensively. Their value goes up in the playoffs. Jaquez is going to be annoyingly good in the playoffs. Also, just won the Sixers against the Sixers the other night. Just won them the game because the Sixers could not get a fucking rebound. But they were missing Joel and like a few guys were out of the lineup, but like they were just relentless on the boards, getting offensive rebounds and just annoying the shit out of them. Quintessential Miami Heat player. He's going to have a 10-year, 12-year career at a minimum. At a minimum, he's a good role player. If the shot improves, potentially an elite role player, and upside of a guy who could be in the All-Star conversation in certain years. Like I said, wings get better into their mid-20s. I know he's 23 right now, but like 26, 27-year-old Jaime Jaquez, when he's in his prime, could be a guy that is like sniffing All-Star conversations with his skill set if the shot continues to get better. Because he's already good at, he was a star in college. He's slowly gotten better over the last few years, and he's already an impact player in the NBA as a rookie. So yeah, no, it's really fucking annoying that they did this. I hate them for it.
Yeah, they got away
but he's
with
good.
It.
He's very good.
I will say it's good that he just like wasn't like Bam again. Like I don't think he's going to be like a Bam level player, which like it looked like that was possible like early on in the season.
Well, he's 4 years older than Bam when he was a rookie.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Bam's like 2 years older than him now. I think maybe 3 years older than him. Yeah.
Do you think the Miami Heat should just trade back if they ever have a pick in the top 10? Like they should just draft back and do like the mid lottery like every time.
No Justice Winslow's.
yeah.
Just Tyler Hero. I don't know. I think it's Tyler Hero isn't a great example.
He's like right on the line. He's like nice.
For the 14th pick in a bad draft, Tyler Hero is really good. I mean, he's still one of the 6 or 7 best players in that draft, and it was a dog shit draft. And great value for where they got him, great value for where they got Bam, and great value for where they got Jaquez. That run, you got to be just, I know it's the Lakers, so like no one really cares, but you got to be sick if you're a Lakers fan and being like, we have this great scouting staff, LeBron and AD on this team. This guy played. I'll give him a pass for pods because we were big on pods, and we also thought it was insane Cam Whitmore dropped as far as he did. Cam Whitmore really makes the most sense if you think about like a flashy Lakers pick.
Oh my God, I didn't even realize that it's Jalen Hood-Schifino and then those 3 in a row.
And then it goes Jaquez, Pods, Cam Whitmore.
Oh God, that's brutal.
Which is like, oh cool. So we just passed on like 2 guys that we're talking about as like high level role players, maybe fringe stars, and then Cam Whitmore, who I think is going to be a star. Like how he played for UCLA.
Yeah,
he
was right there
in your backyard.
Yeah.
And you have this great scouting set. If you go back and you listen to our draft night stream that we posted on the Patreon. I went back and I listened to hear our reactions to that. And our reactions were like, I was like, I think Jalen Hood-Schifino sucks. I was like, am I wrong? Like, are the Lakers scouting that like, are they seeing something I don't see? And then it went Jaquez, then it went Podcast, then it went Whitmore. And in retrospect, like we were like all those picks in a row, we were like, great pick. But they've turned out even better than we expected. And the Lakers could use any of those guys. They could maybe Podcast, maybe not as much just because they're already like kind of guard heavy, but like Jaquez would be fantastic for them. Especially if they wanted to trade Rui Hachimura, Jaquez would be a fantastic replacement there. Or worst case, and Whitmore would be otherworldly level. The Lakers with like a potential star young player on their team, like at a minimum, those guys could be trade bait to get you like a plug and play Trae Young next year. Like it's wild to me that they've absolutely dropped the ball there. So
it's like they took Schifino too. Do you know, like, I mean, like Kobe Buffkin isn't great, but the 14, 15, 16 was Jordan Hawkins, Kobe Buffkin, and Keontae George. Then
that was the rumor.
17.
The rumor was they loved Keontae George,
and
they were going to take him, and then the bastard Danny Ainge swooped in and took him, and they thought So remember when Hood-Schifino's brother got mad at me on Twitter and tweeted at me and was like, "You're an idiot. You don't know anything." Because I said, I don't understand how Jalen Hood-Schifino is getting lottery buzz at all. This guy is not good.
Yeah.
When that happened, he tweeted at me and basically said he's not getting past Utah at 16. So I think Utah kind of threw out some signals that they were going to get Hood-Schifino because they knew that the Lakers like Keontae George. And they didn't want them to leap them so they could take Keontae George and then let Hood-Schifino get drafted. And I think they panicked and they just took the next, who they viewed as the next best guard on the board. And they should have just, if that were the case, just take Podcast.
That's brutal. That's brutal. Danny Ainge does it again. The evil bastard.
Yeah,
he really is our Satan, the Mormon little finger.
Well, the thing about the other thing about this is like, Fear the Void's bringing this up in the comments. Is like maybe they're just better at drafting late and finding hidden gems. That's possible, and also just like the draft isn't a perfect science. Like there are plenty of guys that I liked in this draft that we haven't even talked about yet, and like
that's true.
We're at pick 9 or 10.
It's one thing, like, but there's different things, right? There's the Giannis thing where it's like, oh, you know, everyone was bad in that. You know what I'm saying? Like you just happened to get the one guy. You know, like whatever. I think it's different when there's like, it's part of the reason I'm so mad about the Celtics drafting Aaron Nesmith. It's about who's available on the board and how many of those guys would have been better. And it is a pretty brutal stretch of guys who would have ended up being better. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, sorry, I just had to put my camera real quick. But yeah, so that is the case. It seems so obvious on draft night to us is the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there's stuff. There's stuff the public is right about, and there's stuff the public is wrong about. Like, I think a lot of us on I
was wrong about Anthony Black.
Yeah,
who you're about to take. Yeah, I didn't even have him in the lottery. I don't think, or I had him like fringe lottery.
We were two different ends of a spectrum of believing that Brandon Miller was not the right pick at number 2, and here we are 6 months later, and he's number 2. Like, you know, like there's, you know. It's not always a perfect thing, but then there's other years where everyone's like, after the lottery
why would you take Luka 1?
Why wouldn't you take Luka 1? You should take Maxey or Desmond Bane. You should take Maxey or Desmond Bane for like 9 picks. You know, like, but there's just a ton of
Desmond Bane. It was like literally 15 picks. We were like,
yes.
How is Desmond Bane not gone?
Yeah,
and then, you know, you always get the one guy that drops in the draft, and everyone goes. The few famous examples I can think of are Gary Harris, who honestly, he was terrible as a rookie, Gary Harris.
Mm-hmm.
But if he was stayed healthy, would have been a great pick for where he was drafted.
Mm-hmm.
Cam Whitmore was another one. Why is he falling? And every once in a while, you'll get a guy who's like, why is he falling? And then in time, Jaden Springer, I mean, at least so far in his career, was a guy on draft night. I was like, I thought he was going to go at like the end of the lottery, late teens, and he drafted 29 at the Sixers. I think we took him for 27, and there's a reason why. Sometimes there's a reason why like teams get these guys in for workouts and they just don't look like the same player, or they just didn't like what they saw on film, or you know, the consensus is wrong about a guy, and that can happen too, obviously, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But you have Anthony Black. You didn't get a chance to talk about Anthony Black, so.
I just really like Anthony Black. I feel like I was lied to, led astray, bamboozled
by me.
No, by the nerds who told me I was told Anthony SpongeBob font. I was told Anthony Black wasn't a good shooter. Because I did watch some Anthony Black stuff, and I was like, holy shit, this guy is a fucking defensive menace. Yeah. And like I was like, he's huge. He can handle the ball. Like he does have a lot of like guard skills. But again, what we were just talking about with Asara, like how valuable can you be as a perimeter player of any flavor in the NBA if you just can't shoot? And that was always like kind of the limiting thing with Anthony Black. And then he comes into the NBA and he's fine. You know, he's been a good shooter in his young NBA career. And you know, who knows, that can kind of go away, but he's like way better than guys like Marcus Smart were.
Way better than I ever anticipated as a rookie.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like you said, not a huge sample of shots, but he's 24 for 65 from 3 to start the year, which is 37%. And that's, I never thought he was like, I thought he was for sure going to be, I thought he was going to be in the 20s to start his career. And a lot of these shots are like pretty easy corner threes. A lot of them are open, but like there's at least something to work with there that I just thought didn't exist. Like, the thing that still scares me about him is his scoring. And like, he's been better than I anticipated. And like, he didn't really show any of this in college in terms of like, wasn't a good floater guy, wasn't a good free throw guy, couldn't shoot threes. That's why I was really, really worried about him. But the thing is that he's kind of one of those guys, like he came to basketball late. Like he didn't really play basketball all that much until he was like in his later teen years. Yep. And now I think he's still 19. He might be 20, but he's 19 or 20. And if the 3-point shooting is real, I think that the rest of his game will figure itself out because he's a really good defender. And he's got decent size. And like the majority of guys that we've drafted so far, except for I think Pods and Kaysen, are like all have good physical tools in terms of having size. And that is and like a decent wingspan. Like I think he's like 6'7", Anthony Black. So those things are things that make me think that he can be like a really high level role player and have some good upside. The thing that scares me still though is his scoring. Like he just doesn't score nearly as enough. They don't have high level creators, so that might be the reason why. But I'm still a little bit worried just about like if he can't get to the point where he's like scoring, can he be a starter on a good team if he's not? Like you have to be able to score now. Like there aren't good teams that don't play guys that can't score.
Well, but my other point here though with him is that like I do think part of the reason I was kind of lower on him after the draft, I do think he ended up in one of the worst situations in the NBA for him, which sounds crazy because the Magic are really talented, but there's just a lot of mouths to feed there, and there's not a lot of like pure creators. I think Franz is probably the best pure creator on that team, and he's kind of had like a little bit of a down year. And there's guys like Jalen Suggs is already like your ace in the hole defensive guard versatility, and he's been in the league longer and is better ready to play than Anthony Black. Like he's actually quietly in kind of a really bad situation for him, but it's fine because he's good and the team is good, so no one's really worrying about it. But I think like if you were on a team where he could show what he could do a little bit more and had a little bit more, like if you were on like the Bucks, for example, I think that he would be popping a lot more and people would be talking about him a lot more.
Well, he's basically like a better version of Andre Jackson Jr., who I have the same concerns with, but he can shoot a little bit better, and he is 19 and has more upside. I'm still a little skeptical on Anthony Black's long-term outcome and his offense, but I think at a minimum he's going to be like a defensive ace who can, make the right plays, and like you said, has guard skills at 6'7", and
he's just so big.
Yeah, he still can't shoot free throws, which is concerning. But I don't know, the corner 3-point thing. If that's real, that changes the kind of player he is, I think. Yeah. And you can hope that over time that he can figure out the rest of his game if the shooting gets onto the court. So, yeah.
No, okay, never mind. I thought I had in my head that Anthony Black had like a 6'10" wingspan, but that's not true. He's 6'7", so he's actually.
But he is 6'7", right? Isn't he like 6'6", 6'7"?
He's 6'5" barefoot, so 6'7" and
okay, he's shorter than I thought.
Yeah.
All right, so I had Anthony Black on my list.
He looks huge, and I do think that he can guard all wings.
I still had him 13, which is around where I had him on my board actually at the draft. So. I haven't really moved him up or down. He's been better than I expected with the shot, but the sample's so small that I'm not going to like over index that. So, all right. So, all right. I'm just going to take, with the 10th pick here, we got a few picks left. I'm going to take Bilal Coulibaly.
Okay.
So Bilal is another guy. The two guys, Bilal and Lively, these are always the guys that I miss on in the draft every time.
Yeah.
Toolsy guys that show like defensive versatility and all that stuff, because I'm just like always skeptical of the like athletic raw guy until they actually prove it on an NBA court. I don't really know how to project that as much as I do with other things. And he has been still very young, more of a flashes guy than like an actual production guy. And I've seen, like, he had a game against the Sixers earlier this year where defensively he was super disruptive. And he's another guy that when he was coming into the league, whenever we talked about it on podcasts with draft people we had on, I was always worried about the scoring and the shooting. And so far he's been a passable scorer for his role and a passable shooter for his role, and has shown that he has like crazy tools, is a good rebounder for a wing. Is still kind of in a minimized role. I would like to see his role expand here as we get into Mickey Mouse March. But the flashes and the moments you see from him, very similar to the Thompson twins for me. They're special. And I think that these are the kind of this is the archetype of player that every team is looking for. And when we're getting towards the end here, when it's more like, I feel like the majority of the rest of the guys we're taking are either low ceiling or high upside swing guys. That I think that I'm comfortable taking Bilal Coulibaly with the 10th pick here. So that the Washington team, between him and Denny Advia, that Washington team is at least going to have some competence, I think, moving forward.
Trust the winger plan. The Schlenk bird has landed.
The only problem I have with it is the fact that they have decided to tank in the worst year to tank. Like, I'm trusting draft people right now because I'm still kind of uninformed on this upcoming draft compared to where I'm usually at. But like, I've been a little bit more plugged in, but like, I'm trusting that you got to hit on someone in the draft in order for me to really care about your rebuild. And maybe they're tanking this year and next year to go after like Cooper Flagg. And maybe Denny Avdia and Kyle Kuzma and everyone that's on the team gets traded this offseason, and Bilal's the only one sticking around. But we'll see. We'll see. I think there's at least some optimism around.
The United Nations in our capital will grow even more. They're going to get SAR or somebody like that.
Let's
and
go.
We're going to be and we're gonna be hooping. I actually think Reed Shepherd is going to feed families for Washington.
I don't think they're going to take him that high, though, is the problem.
They'll trade back. Winger we trust.
Well, they have the second pick right now in terms of odds, which would be Nikola Topic right now. Nikola Topic. Find a topic. Yeah. And then, I mean, everyone else in that range is like, it's pretty much, from what I understand of these guys, it's like Topic and Sar are like the pretty clear 1 and 2. And then everyone else, it starts to become like, maybe you just take the safe pick and go with like a Cody Williams or a Reed Shepherd or something.
I was just going to say, I feel like part of the reason everyone's saying this draft is bad is it seems like the international guys are going to be like where this draft is like, gets good. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
like, I think it
doesn't have a clear like almost every draft has like a clear upside star guy. Yeah. And like this draft is just like, we don't know.
Well, I guess my thing, why I don't get like the thing about like bad drafts is like, it's pretty rare that a bad draft is actually a bad draft. You know what I'm saying? Like even the 2013 draft had like Oladipo and,
the only actually bad draft is like, if you want to talk about like no redeeming qualities, is 2000.
Yeah. Was that the Kenyon Martin draft?
Yeah, it's like Kenyon Martin and Michael Redd are the best players from that draft, and Mike Miller. It's a horrible draft. I mean, no, 2013 had Giannis. Let's not forget, Giannis and Gobert were in that draft. So, like, that is in itself makes the draft at least somewhat salvageable. Beyond the like top few picks, I actually think 2015 is one of the worst drafts we've had recently.
Is that the Cat draft?
Cat and Booker, like and Porzingis are like the best 3, but like beyond that, it gets pretty gross pretty fast. 2019 is a really bad one too, especially because even if you look at the top players from 2019, there's so much other shit going on with Ja and Zion, and then like Garland's good, but like Garland's like a fringe all-star type guy. Like,
I guess I was going to say the reason I'm not chased off by that, there's going to be 2 guys in this draft who are going to be all NBA guys who are going to be available, like,
maybe
for most teams. You know what I'm saying? Like,
if you drafted Scout right, you'll probably end up being happy with if you have a high pick. But like, It could get pretty. It could get ugly quick. It's possible.
I guess just my thing when people say that it's a bad draft, like a lot of drafts are like bad once you get to like 13. You know what I'm saying? Like know, like I think like I watch Reed Shepherd play and I'm like, this guy will probably be pretty good in the NBA. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like if I'm drafting like Reed Shepherd like 5, that's
fine. I would be fine
high.
taking him 5 or 6. I would be fine taking the guy. I would be fine taking a high floor guy if I already had my core in place. Like I'm like, all right, I wouldn't like it for a team like Washington, but I would like it for a team like Toronto. Like if Toronto holds onto their pick, that's fine with me.
But the thing with taking a high floor guy is like, you know what I'm saying? You can't always be taking like these like hyper project guys. Like that's what Minnesota did that made them so bad for so long. You do have to have capable guys.
Isn't there benefit for that for a team like Washington who might want to tank again next year? Like, for example, like if you draft the raw upside prospect. Well, that's not necessarily true. I mean,
it's not necessarily true.
Not like there's no rookie in this class that's going to take you from like being like the winning 16 games or however many games they win this year to like 28. Like I don't think there's anyone that you have to worry about with that. But there might be some like if there is a raw guy like they did with Bilal, there might be some benefit to that in terms of helping you get some more lottery balls in the Cooper Flag draft.
Well, I'm just saying if you got a guy who's good enough to affect your meaningfully affect your lottery odds, it means you ended up with a guy like Mikal Bridges, which is a pretty good, like, you know, that's a pretty good outcome no matter what.
I mean, Mikal wasn't even good enough as a rookie. I think that you're right. Like, I think that there's very few guys that come in and are instantly like, I think the last few, especially for the younger guys, are like Wemby, LaMelo, and like they were still on. I mean, when LaMelo was on a good team as a good enough team. They were a play-in team. They were like the 9 seed his rookie year. Right. But it's very rare that a guy comes in and impacts winning all that much unless they're drafted to like a perfect situation, which Washington doesn't have to worry about. Like Washington could, if they overperform, they could just do what the Jazz did and tear it down at the deadline. Like it really doesn't matter all that much. Like
exactly. So I think I would not let myself get chased off too much by this, like being like the bad draft. I do think they should have traded Bradley Beal earlier to like get in the conversation for Wemby, for fucking Wemby. But like, you know, in general, I think that conversation goes one way. I think it's fine to want picks in like the Zion or the Anthony Davis draft, but I don't think like punting on a draft because there's no clear superstar. Like somebody's going to be available. Like you're going to have a guy who's really good somewhere in this draft. So
all right. So I took Bilal at 10. Who would you like?
By the way, you kind of sniped me on that because that was my next pick. I'm kind of in a tier here, and I've got a bunch of guys that are kind of clumped together here. I might regret this. You know what? No, I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to take Nick Smith. How do you feel about that?
No,
you don't want me. You don't want me to take Nick Smith?
No.
You think that's bad?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. I literally I wrote down 20 names. I didn't even have Nick Smith written.
You didn't have Nick Smith?
No, Nick Smith is like a bench guard. Best case scenario.
Okay, well,
Nick Smith Jr. from the Hornets for everyone.
Fine.
I'm not letting
I'll take Amen Thompson. I wanted to be fun.
So I had Amen a little higher, but there were so many guys that you passed over that I was like, I have to take this guy instead. But Amen, it's the same conversation as we had with the Star. It's just a different. I mean, like he's definitely. I mean, like I said, he can impact games. Like he comes off the bench and he could be a menace, but all comes down to the shooting for these guys for me.
Yeah.
What level? Okay, I guess my question for you is like, what would he have to shoot from 3? And like, I know the handle isn't great right now, and like over time it could, I guess, get better. But like, handle isn't really a thing that guys make like leaps with. Like, it's usually like you go from like you're not a great ball handler to like you're a passable one. So like maybe he doesn't have the star upside that originally projected, but. My question with Amen is like, what level of shooter would he have to become to be a starter? Like, could he be
32?
So he'd have to be Russell Westbrook, basically.
Yeah, Yeah, 32%, I think.
with better shot selection.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't I see Will in the comments. The other thing of saying what's the difference between Amen and Jaden Springer?
Uh-huh.
Amen is a legit athlete. Like Jaden Springer, really good moving his feet in space, could put pressure on the ball, like really good point of attack defender. Amen is actually an athlete. Jaden Springer still jumps off 2 feet. Like, I don't think people realize that Jaden Springer is still like raw and probably will never reach his potential because he's just not the level of athlete that the Thompson twins are. And the Thompson twins are like legit star level athletes. They just don't have those other components of their game to get to that star level unless they become better shooters and better ball handlers, which it's a lot to ask. Like, I mean, they're 21 right now, but they just turned 21 like a month ago. So like, I don't know. They're the most confusing prospects I've seen in quite some time.
I've watched even less Houston than I have Detroit this year, but I also the couple of games I did catch, Amen seemed to be a genuinely good passer too, which is something that is different. Yeah, that does change.
Everything would fall into place if he could shoot and like be a little bit better at handling the ball. Like his last game, I know was against the Memphis G League team, but like the Memphis G League team's actually been kind of hooping. When they beat the Bucks and everyone melted down, I was like, they've been good though. Like I'm not like I really don't even think that that's like insane.
Can I confess something? Another guy I had this year that I was looking at.
No, you can't because I have to take him next.
Oh, you're gonna take him next? Okay.
I have him next.
I thought you were gonna react like that when I took that player. Because I thought about him too. Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
Because I thought I was being insane because I saw him live and I went, this is an NBA player. Like I was so impressed. Like
okay, last 3 games for Amen Thompson, and once again, he actually was playing starter level minutes. 12 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 8 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, 19 points, 12 rebounds, 2 assists. Like Jaden Springer will never do that in his life. Like, I'm sorry. Like if the level of, even if you gave him all the opportunity in the world, he's not reaching that level of player. And the rebounding and the other shit that they can do other than just like be crazy defenders and athletes gives me some hope that like there's a pathway to them to become like legit. I don't even know if I want to say stars. Like Amen might get there, but the shot just being as broken as it is makes me concerned with that. But I think that they'll have a longer leash at a minimum. Like they're going to get opportunities because they were drafted high. They have crazy tools, and like maybe it just turns into like one of these guys that just never quite works out. But like I don't know, they can hang on NBA courts at 21. Like, let's see how they look when they're 25.
Yeah.
I'm next.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
I had GG Jackson 10 on my board, so I actually don't think it's insane.
This is so funny for me that like it's a complete opposite of what I expected. I genuinely thought about taking GG Jackson last pick, but I thought everyone would yell at me.
No. GG Jackson.
Like,
so here's the thing with GG Jackson.
Yeah.
There will be a lot of rewritten history about him in the draft. Yeah. How did he fall to round 2?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
he was horrible in college. Like, watching him play was like, I was like, how is this guy even a prospect? Like, I know he was really young. I know he reclassified. I know he changed schools from North Carolina to South Carolina. I know the whole story. But between that and the fact that like South Carolina was really bad, but they were like passable when he was off the court, and like the worst team in the country when he was on the court, there were a lot of red flags in his game. He's also incredibly young, incredibly athletic, has good size, and has now shown over the course of multiple, not just that Celtics game he went to, like he was a legitimate bucket in that Bucks game on national television, and he's done it 2 straight national television games at his age, and has been an incredible. Now, once again, it's the Cam Whitmore thing, but maybe even worse. He never passes. He never passes. But if you're his age, like he's the youngest player in the NBA, I think. I could be wrong on that, but I think he's the youngest player in the NBA. Yeah. Maybe there's an international guy I'm forgetting that is younger, but Last game against Milwaukee, 27 points on 10 of 17 from the field. Game before that, 20 points on 8 of 15 from the field with 9 rebounds against Houston. Over the last 2 or 3 weeks, like, he's just been a really effective scorer for a guy his size, with his tools, at his age. I didn't even have him as a first round pick. And I shout out to Dredd, who was like, he had GG Jackson like near the lottery. He was like one of the last GG Jackson supporters that I knew. And he's like, look, I know everything's bad, but like, he's so talented. Like, if he can ever figure it out, like, he'll be a guy. He's the guy that I think is like the silver line. Him and Vince Williams for the Grizzlies. Those are the 2 silver linings from this season, that they're going to be in their rotation moving forward. And maybe he's only a bench scorer because of the fact that like he has other flaws in his game, but he's going to be a really good one. Like, he's just going to be that guy. Like, I mean, maybe he's just like a better, I'm just trying to think of like big bench scores, like a better Bobby Portis or whatever, but like, he's going to be an NBA player. Like, he has the size, he has the score, and he has more upside at his age. So it's a smaller sample, but still, he's got that dog.
He has that dog. That's what jumped out. I saw him live. I had no idea, because I was driving down to the game for the Marcus Smart game. I had no idea that there were going to be 13 inactive players for the Grizzlies that night. And so there were legitimately guys I had never heard of on the team. Like, they only had 7 players available. The Celtics were just like, should have just euthanized them. And part of the reason it was a close game in the second quarter was GG Jackson was not scared at all, man. He was fucking hooping out there. He really did like leap off the page. I was like, so much so that I was like, one of my thoughts was, because all it said was Jackson. I didn't know Jaren Jackson Jr. was out. So I was like, damn, Jaren Jackson looks small in person. And then 2, damn, I've been kind of getting on Jaren Jackson for not being a dog, but he's kind of hooping out there. He looks like a small forward. Like, no, it was GG Jackson all along. To be fair to me, my seats were really bad. I couldn't see anyone.
You were sitting up with Jesus.
Yeah, I was in front of the pod, Jason Buford's Knicks seats, but just in Boston. But GG Jackson, so that makes me feel better that I'm not insane that I had GG Jackson in this high.
My last few picks have just been L's by me, like Bilal, GG Jackson, like guys that Derek Lively, like these are all guys that have been way better than I ever anticipated, and like. Yeah. We'll see what GG, because GG's already, the thing about him is that like he had issues with his coaches at South Carolina, and he's already been fined by the Grizzlies twice, I think, for like showing up late for things. So like, I hope that he can figure that part out, because and as he gets older, hopefully he can. But it is it's been shocking to me that he's been this good this early in his career, and good for him that he's taking advantage of this opportunity. He got a contract. I think they converted him to like a real NBA deal, so he will be there at least for the next few years. And the small bean drafting team might have done it again after some misses. They might have redeemed themselves by getting GG where they did in the second round. So so you're up next. We have 2 picks left, 13 and 14. And
okay, I'll take. I know it's been. I know it's been rough for him lately. I'm still a believer. I'm gonna take Keontae George here, who I forgot.
I thought you were gonna take Scoot. I had Keontae next on my board.
Yeah, I'm taking Keontae here.
But no, you missed it. It has not been rough for him. He had the best game of his season against the Warriors the other night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I just literally the last game before break. He had 6 threes in the first half. I was like,
okay,
it was unbelievable. He scored 33, 6 and 2 against the Warriors in the last game. So he was
okay. I know he was having like a bad stretch for a while, because I was like, oh, let me check up on Keontae George and see how he's doing. And it was
they moved him into the lead guard role, and it was a little tough, but he balled out in that game.
Okay. Well, I'm still a huge believer in Keontae. The chosen hooper.
Parm's guy.
Parm's guy. I think Parm called this fucking shot with that one. Really good player. I think I'm not worried about the shooting percentages or the efficiency or anything like that. Like, he's playing with you know, the guys that playing with young Bull and Jordan Clarkson is probably not the best thing for his development, to be totally honest.
DeMar DeRozan playing with Rudy Gay.
Yeah. So I gotta say that I'm I think Keontae's got a lot more upside to him. He's kind of settled down. He's just started so hot and everything like that. But I still think he's going to be like one of the better players in this draft, and I believe in him a lot. I still think ultimately he's probably his future in the NBA is like a microwave scorer, like six guy. Like I don't think he's going to be able to like be in like playoff rotations or anything like that. But unless it's like a Malik Monk style like role or something like that. But I think he can do a lot of this, other stuff. I think there's a path for him to be like a useful playoff player, and that alone I think is good for him. I think it's just 6'4" shooting guard. You're a little undersized. Like there's some stuff there that's a little weird. But
the one positive with him is that almost everyone of his archetype is like the worst player of all time as a rookie.
That's
like
true.
Every good six man. Like, go look at the advanced stats and the raw numbers for Colin Sexton and Jordan, not Jordan Clarkson, Jamal Crawford, and all of these guys when they're rookies, they all suck.
Yeah.
The good part about him is that the moments and the flashes, the shooting is like, I think he's going to be an elite shooter, and I think that might be his.
He's an 80% 3-point or free throw shooter, I think, right?
81.8%. Okay, so he's 82%. It's a small volume, but he's always been a good free throw shooter, is the thing. Is that in college he was like a decent free throw shooter, and the touch from floater range made me think that he could extend it out to three, which so far in his career, look, he's only at 35%, but he takes 5.4 threes a game. His scoring more I'm worried about is inside the arc. But he is a bucket, and maybe he's a microwave scorer off the bench. Maybe he has a tinge of like Anthony Simons, Tyler Hero style in his game, where like in the right context, maybe he can start. I kind of think that he looks his stats are way worse than when you watch him in a good game. In a bad game, you catch him on the wrong night, it can be tough, but like I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I've watched a ton of Jazz. I've only watched like they're one of the better late night viewing teams to just like watch, and I'll catch their games, especially end of games. But like that Warriors game, I watched most of it. He popped when he was absolutely nailing, like going shot for shot with Klay Thompson in that game. It was really fun. And then the thing Zach Lowe said on his podcast is that he thinks his defense is like solid. Like for a rookie guard at his size, he thinks his defense is solid. And that's the thing with guys like Hero and Simons is like their defense is just not solid. Like their defense is like really bad. And like Keontae can get to the point where he's a passable like if he can even be like a Tyrese Maxey on defense, like and maybe even better, I don't know, then I would be totally fine with him like in the right situation, maybe even being a starter level guy. And like he still has that like sliver glimpse of star upside to me that like I can see a little bit with him. Like I like his game a lot, but the inside the arc stuff definitely worries me. He's got to get a lot bigger and stronger in order to be effective inside the arc, because right now he's currently shooting 44% from two. That's not good enough. Like he's got to be way better if he's going to be a bucket. So that's Keontae's good. Last pick here, 14th pick. So I'll list off my honorable mentions before I pick.
Okay.
My honorable mentions, who honestly you could make an argument for any of these guys going 14. Okay. Marcus Sasser, Toumani Camara, Craig Porter Jr., my guy Ricky Council, the fourth, Philadelphia 76ers. Okay.
No,
who literally he's been. If we did,
he's been good. I know he's been good. But
if we did a redraft, he would go probably 20th in this. Yeah, which for an undrafted guy, pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah, pretty good.
The thing with Ricky is like I've watched him. He's only played like 5 or 6 games for the Sixers so far, so it's way too small of a sample to really take anything from this. But he just belongs on an NBA court, and like that's enough for me for an undrafted guy to be like, you'd probably be one of the 20 guys from this draft that is at least a rotation player at some point in his career.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, he's been really good for the Hospital Sixers. Like, he's honestly been better than Kelly Oubre over the last 2 weeks, and that is kind of the pathway for him to become a rotation player in the NBA. So, Jordan Hawkins, I also had in my honorable mentions.
That was one of the ones I was waiting on to hear from.
And I'm gonna go with Trace Jackson Davis.
Okay, that was the last one I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
If you had Trace Jackson Davis on there.
I liked him pre-draft. And look, maybe because he's older, he's already like 24, I think. Like, he's pretty old, like 23 really going on 24, I think. But he was a really good college player. He's a little bit undersized, but he makes up for it in like just being a super smart basketball player. He's a very good athlete. And I think he's going to be a core piece for the Warriors if they don't trade him in some sort of star package or whatever this offseason. I think he's just really good. He's just a really good basketball player. And like, I know people are going to probably shit on us for not taking Scoot here. But I want to have a conversation about Scoot in a second. But like, I know that Trace Jackson Davis is at minimum going to be one of the best backup centers if he can't get to the point where he's a starting center. And like, when you're getting towards the end of lotteries and drafts, like, these are the kind of guys that we're usually talking about. Like, there are probably guys that are beyond him that are just young and haven't had the opportunity to show it, like Jarris Walker, who's shown some flashes. I had him in my honorable mentions too. I forgot. He's shown some flashes. Like, Jarris Walker's shooting, and especially in the G League, is like legit. Like, he can shoot, and like that changes everything for me for long term for his ceiling. But you have to have shown me something in the NBA, and Trace Jackson Davis has shown me something in the NBA that is like tangible and I can hold on to. And the majority of the times, not always, the majority of the times, this first 50 games to first 100 games in the NBA matters more than the majority of the stuff that happened pre-draft and pre-college. Some guys will get opportunities. I'm sure Taylor Hendricks, who hasn't really played, like, maybe these guys can show us things, and maybe Scoot can completely rewrite his story. And a year from now, we're saying, oh man, it's insane we didn't redraft him. But like, I'm going based on what I've seen so far and based on the production that they've had so far. And like, Trace Jackson Davis deserves this over a few guys that I probably would take that are more like upside tools guys. So, yeah,
I agree with you. I'm probably still more in on, well, more wish casting on Scoot. I really want Scoot to be.
Let's talk about Scoot for a second, because I have some damning things for him.
I know. I'm well aware. I've seen them all.
So here's the thing with Scoot.
It's bad. Even Garland, like Garland has been like the, rookies are bad.
Not this bad though.
Not this bad. Yeah.
This is the thing, is like, it's hard for me because when I watch the games, it doesn't, like, Keontae George's stats are bad. When I watch the games, I'm like, I can see it though.
Yeah.
And like with Scoot, it's so few and far between. And maybe I'm just too like bucket pilled, but like, that's why he was drafted. like he was drafted to be a scorer, playmaker, all of that. And it hasn't translated at all. And they've scaled up his role. They've scaled down his role. They've moved him all around. And it still kind of looks generally the same. It's just really tough for me with a guy like him where, look, this is a month old because he was, still very young in his career. And I don't want to completely write him off because I did like him pre-draft. Like, I liked a lot of what I saw.
Yeah.
It's just the athleticism. I feel like it's just been overrated. Like, I watch him and I don't see what I thought he was going to be when he was on an NBA court. And right now, so this was the thing, is that if you look at the history of guys that had a BPM, so right now Scoot's BPM, I think it's a little bit better. At this point, it was a 6.5 was his BPM, which, look, box plus minus isn't the end all be all, but there isn't an advanced stat out there or a stat that like Scoot. Like, his BPM's slightly better now. It's at negative 6.3. Here are the players that had in their first 50 games in the NBA had a minus 6.0 BPM or worse. Jamal Crawford, Austin Rivers, Gary Harris, Colin Sexton. Those all actually sound kind of optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you get down closer to Scoot's level, Howard Isley, Scoot Henderson, Dennis Schroeder, Courtney Alexander, Kiefer Sykes, Kobe Simmons, Killian Hayes, Jordan Poole, Corey Carr, and Blake Wesley. That's your first 40 games in the NBA. Basically every other player in the bottom 10 is a bust. And the best case scenario out of all these guys, I think, is Colin Sexton.
Or Dennis. I would say Dennis.
Or Dennis Schroeder, sure. One of those two.
Yeah.
And maybe if Gary Harris was able to stay healthy, he would have had a better career than both those guys. And like Jamal Crawford, like I said, he was terrible young. And if you get a little bit...
He was terrible old.
Yeah. I mean, he was a bucket. Like, he was like a...
He was a bucket.
Yeah.
He
had a long career.
No one has benefited more from living through the boomer era of the NBA than Jamal Crawford. Like, if the nerds had gotten in there earlier, he would have 9 less Sixth Man of the Year.
Hey, he had multiple positive BPM seasons. I'm looking at right now. He had a 2.4 BPM 1 year.
Okay, was that Clippers year?
Atlanta. He had a year with Atlanta where.
The Sixth Man of the. That was like for the what would that? That would have been like 2007,
2009, 2010.
Okay.
57% true shooting.
Okay.
He never had an assist percentage above 20, except for he did earlier in his career. He had a 27 early in his career, and then he had a 20 later in his career. But Jamal Crawford had a fine career, like a good career. Yeah. Like, I mean, like, played in the NBA for 20 years. Like, regardless of whatever you think about nerd shit, he was a bucket. And look, I'm not saying it's impossible for Scoot, but like, there's so many things that have to work out for him.
Yeah.
Like, the shooting needs to be legit. Like, he needs to, like, it's just the level of athlete that he is and his skill set and his size. The shooting needs to be legit. I know the defense was like pretty good early, but like that might have just been like some Mickey Mouse analytic shit. Like, I can't really tell you. I don't watch a ton of Blazers games, but I hope the best for him. I hope that he can kind of grow into it, but like, lowest true shooting in the NBA by a mile. And it's not like he's running 100 pick and rolls every game, and that's the case. Like, he right now has the lowest true shooting, and the other guys in this group he's at 47.9. Actually, Shaedon Sharpe was second. I was surprised. He did have an injury this year. I still like Shaedon Sharpe, but 54% for Shaedon Sharpe. This was NBA University tweeted. Trae Young was below. This has got to be an old tweet, right? Oh, I'm sorry. This is rim field goal attempts. I apologize. This is not true shooting. But Scoot is shooting 48% at the rim.
Yeah.
That's why I'm concerned. It's not just the shooting, which was, I always thought if the shooting comes along, he'll be great. But it's like, it's not just the shooting needs to get better. The at rim attempts need to get better. Trae Young's at 54%. Mathurin is at 54%. Rozier is just below. Like, the guys that he should be way better than basically any sort of indicators in his stats should be. And the eye test matches everything that I'm like, I've never watched a Scoot game and been blown away outside of random hot shooting games. And like, that's not a great sign for a guy who wasn't drafted as a shooter. I hope the shooting comes along. I hope at a minimum he can make himself into like a role player guy. And from everything we hear, like, he works really hard, like all that shit. But like, he's still young enough that like, I don't think he's a lost cause. But like, like I said, if I were redrafting, I wouldn't take him in the lottery. Like, it's the indicators are there that he could be just like an all-time bust. There's also indicators there that like
he could be Marvin Williams.
I don't even know. Like, I don't even know what he could become, because the guys like Anthony Edwards by the end of his rookie year was really, if Scoots turns it around in the next month or two, maybe it is just a Darius Garland, Anthony Edwards, De'Aaron Fox situation where like he just needed 40 or 50 games to get his legs under him. But all of those guys I felt like all of those guys had, like, Garland had the touch. Those guys had like crazy explosive level athleticism, and I just haven't seen it with Scoot. So I hope for the fact that maybe this Mickey Mouse March will be good for him.
Mr. Henderson, I want you to meet me at the webcam over here. I purposefully did not select you in this draft to put a chip on your shoulder. We are the blog boys. This is this rat face right here of a 34-year-old man telling you, a 20-year-old, that your career is over. I want you to remember this, and I want you to get your eyes on the prize and remember that what you need to do is be better than Brandon Miller. That is your mission. You must be better than Brandon Miller. You can do this. You need to beat. I need you to go through Dean on Draft's tweets, read everything. That guy didn't believe in you. That is who you need to overcome. Me and Dean on Draft, two identical men.
So these were some of the rookies selected in the lottery that I could find with a worse BPM than -5.
Gotta be my boy Anthony Bennett, right?
Anthony Bennett was on there. Otto Porter Jr. was also on there.
I remember that. I remember him being really bad.
So I mean, Otto Porter like had a good career. If he could stay healthy, would have had a great role player career.
To be fair, Otto Porter did have like size and stuff.
Yeah, and he was a good shooter.
Yeah, good shooter. Yeah, but
wait, did Porter not? Did I do the minutes restriction wrong? Did he not play really at all?
Yeah, I forgot about that. He was injured too, so
maybe I fucked that up. Maybe it was a Julius Randle thing where I fucked up the. No, he played 8 minutes a game. Yeah, I wouldn't really. It's 37 games at 8 minutes. That's not 8 or 9 minutes. Like that doesn't count. So let's throw him out. Alex Len, Anthony Bennett, Dragan Bender, Kevin Knox, Darius Garland.
Okay.
James Wiseman, Killian Hayes, Isaac Okoro, Jalen Smith, but he didn't reach the minutes restriction. And now he's turned into like a nice player for the Pacers, but he didn't reach his minutes restriction. Also has goggles, if I remember correctly. Maybe Scoot just needs LASIK.
Yeah.
Let's get Scoot LASIK.
LASIK, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. 2021, Jalen Suggs.
Okay, that's an interesting one.
Josh Primo, James Bouknight, and then last year Johnny Davis. So those were the ones I could find.
Bad list.
I didn't have in my defense. I don't pay for StatHead. So StatHead, if you want to give me a free membership, I'll take it.
I pay for it. I should just give you money.
I should have asked you.
Yeah,
but I looked through this list of and keep in mind this. Oh, Emmanuel Mudiay is also on that list. But keep in mind this is only guys that were selected in the lottery. So there are guys outside of the lottery, like the ones that I mentioned, that have been on these lists as well, but they just weren't selected in the lottery. So yeah, that's it. Hope Scoot gets better. Hope that he can kind of have a breakout here. But of the players that I named, which has really been, and Thomas Robinson, if you go back to 2012, 10 bus, 1 all-star, 2 starter level players and 2 bench players. So not great. Not great.
Not good. Scoot, you can do this. You can turn me into the most insufferable man in history by defeating Brandon Miller in basketball combat. If 3 years from now you're better than Brandon Miller, I will take the grossest victory lap of all time.
Yeah. Yes, the best of luck with that. I don't see it happening, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah. By the way, the 4 players who fell out of the lottery that were selected in the lottery here: Scoot, Grady Dick, Jarris Walker, and Taylor Hendricks. So we'll see.
Yeah,
they got time.
Say Walker and Taylor Hendricks just haven't really played. But again, we talked about Taylor Hendricks and how it's like very bizarre that he just doesn't play.
Well, they finally started to get run after they traded Olynyk. So I'm hoping that he'll be better over the course of the next. Oh, Jet Howard too. I forgot. I always forget about Jet Howard. I can't believe Jet Howard went 11th in the draft.
That is still really bizarre.
Yeah.
Like, didn't the Magic trade back, or am I making that up?
No, that was the pick they got from the Bulls. They took
right.
Anthony Black and then Jet Howard.
Boy.
Yeah. We'll see. These guys have plenty of time to figure it out, but not great signs if you haven't played by this point. I'll say that.
Can you imagine if they just taken like Cam Whitmore or Brandon Podcaster?
They would have both been great. Cam Whitmore is the more confusing one, because if you were looking for a wing who could shoot, I know that he doesn't pass, but like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
all right.
Whatever.
Thank you for joining. By the way, I'll be streaming on Thursday for Kyle Lowry's debut because he delayed it. But I'll be back on playback, so links in the description if you want to follow for that. Thank you for joining us. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.
Nick Smith.